And there was a time in this country, a long time ago, when reading wasn't just for fags, and neither was writing. People wrote books and movies that had stories, so you cared whose ass it was and why it was farting, and I believe that time can come again.
Hello and welcome to the Think Liberty podcast. This is episode 60. I'm your host, Vinny Marshall. I don't have anything interesting or funny to say on this one. I just had to sit through that fucking Super Bowl. Anyhow, joining me on this episode tonight, we have back again, TJ Eckert. TJ, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. I don't know who Vinny Marshall is, but it's good to be on.
I know, right? It's all. What was it last time? Jim Acosta, I think.
Yeah, I'm used to talking to Jim Acosta, Jason Stapleton. We've had a lot of guests.
We have. And our other guest joining us this evening here is a new guest, Matthew McGowan. Matthew, how are you doing? And thanks for joining us this evening, man.
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get into the thick of it, I heard. See, Matthew, you're a loud and proud libertarian. One of the Libertarian Party kinds. It's okay. We still love you. And
I'm more of a state party kind of guy myself.
Right. Well, that's good. But so you're running for something recently. Why don't you tell us and listeners what exactly you've got going on there?
I was nominated to run for the chairman of the executive committee of the Libertarian Party of Ohio. So I did accept, and our election will be March 2nd. Be the central committee of the state party voting on it. So, any of you Ohio libertarians listening, go ahead and contact your central committee members and put in a good word.
Right. I just so happen to be an Ohio libertarian. So,
well, there we go. See,
I actually didn't know you were running for that. Yeah, I didn't know you were running for that position.
Yep. This is a recent development, but somebody put my name out there, asked if I'd be interested, and we have a great state party here in Ohio, and the opportunity to be a part of it and help do some things here in my home state. I'm on board. So
that's awesome, man. I think that I don't really know what the position entails, but I know you'll be good at it because you're an individual that's good at stuff.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. So what does one do with this position? Why don't you fill us in?
Well, I envision it more as kind of the marketing arm of the party. You're going to be the face of the party to a lot of folks. You're helping the central committee to implement their agenda. I think the tools that I've learned over the past year and a half, hanging out with you guys, giving me a little bit of multimedia savvy that I didn't have before, and along with some other people in our state party that are there. I think we can start doing a better job of getting our message out, getting people involved, finding constructive things to be involved in. I think there's opportunities for petition drives here in Ohio. We're still a state where they haven't even honestly figured out the medical marijuana we passed 2 years ago. So, I think there's room for the Libertarian Party to lead on an issue like that. The Republicans here, they don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, and the Democrats are a little scared too, and I think this is an opportunity for our party to make some headway. So that's one of the things I would hope to help the party do to make us a little more of a known quantity here, and maybe make some positive change in the state, bring a little libertarian principle to government.
See, I like this a lot, and what I like about what you just said was, you started by saying, so it's like the marketing arm, right? And then and when you went into what you're going to do, it was all like action oriented. So one of the things that bugs me a lot of times when I hear people talk, especially libertarians, right, is they'll be like, I feel like, and you can speak up if you've heard this too, guys, but I feel like the libertarians are always looking for like the next one-liner that's going to like shoot them into like viral marketing.
Yep.
And you gotta get a couple wins under your belt, I feel like, before you could do that. Like, you know what I mean? Have you ever seen?
No, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Taxation is theft.
I know exactly what you're talking about, man. And that's kind of my idea is we do need to get some wins under our belt, and there's wins to be had. To go back to the marijuana issue, that's a overwhelmingly popular issue in the state, recreational marijuana. That's something that we could lead on, and that's something where we could chalk up a win as a part of a broader coalition or leading the charge. So we've got a lot of talented people in the state. We've got a lot of doers. The Ohio Libertarian Party doesn't have a lot of talkers. There's a lot of doers. So I think if we can kind of get together and iron out a direction that we can all row in together, we could do great things.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to try to do here.
Now, forgive me if I'm wrong. I heard that, is it true that the Ohio Party lost its ballot access after the last election, though?
That remains to be
I know we were
seen.
fighting about it, so...
Well, as the law is written, we have a year from the time that we actively become a party before the elections count towards retaining access. So, the outgoing Secretary of State tried to say that we lost it. There hasn't been an official ruling, and I'm hopeful that the state party will, let's call the state out on it and say, where do we stand? Because we need to figure this out now. But according to the wording of the law that they passed, we had a year before either a gubernatorial election or a presidential election would count towards obtaining that 3% threshold. So if we got to fight, it wouldn't be the first time.
No, that's good. And now that Kasich, I know he screwed us on the last vote, so now that he's out, it might be a little bit better.
You hope for more reasonable people in charge, but you look at the team and you look at their history, and we certainly can't count on it. So we have to be ready. And I know the people that are in charge in the party now are gearing up to take the battle to them. So remains to be seen how it turns out, but I would say with confidence that the party's ready to handle either eventuality.
Well, that's awesome. I hope we can get ballot access then.
We should be able to retain what we have at least through 2020. And then unfortunately it's going to be on the national party to nominate a candidate that can inspire at least 3% of our fellow Buckeyes. We might have to long-term game plan anyway. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
And you might just talk me into voting. I don't know.
Hey, we might need it, man. Everyone.
Oh shit!
TJ said he was going to vote.
No,
What?
No.
What?
No, I take that back. We won't. You didn't hear anything.
All right. Okay. All right. So, anyone listening to this, again, just like we did with our episode that we did with the whole Lincoln Memorial situation, we're going to upload this one. You'll be hearing this on Monday. Normally you hear us on Tuesdays. We're jumping ahead because we're going to do a little Super Bowl themed episode here. Unless, of course, TJ, was there anything that you wanted to share? Usually we go over a bit of if there's anything interesting over the weekend. I feel like we skipped you, TJ. Before we move on, is there anything that you wanted to share?
Over the weekend?
Yeah, anything at all? Since the last time we talked, anything happened? Anything you'd like to talk about?
No, not on my behalf. I was really disappointed with that Super Bowl. I wish we had more to talk about.
Yeah, so let's jump into that.
I'll be honest. That was a letdown.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there was all this hubbub about Maroon 5 and whatever they would do with solidarity with Colin Kaepernick.
I did hear someone called it a kneeling fest. We were supposed to look forward to.
Right, something like that. And then I was thinking, in this political climate that we've got, we'd have for sure seen a few commercials to talk about. And what's actually funny? So I'm watching the Super Bowl and I'm thinking, I have my notes out. And I'm ready to take notes about things that I see or things that I'm going to make comments on. And so there's this commercial that comes up, and did you guys see the Handmaid's Tale commercial that played?
I do believe.
It's it starts out and it looked like a Cory Booker presidential advertisement video, or a Kamala Harris one. It's all women lead the way. More women are working in the workforce. They will get up And
of course, inclusivity is, as we, are more divided than ever.
Yeah, and then it just turns out to be like a Handmaid's Tale thing. It's like all post-apocalyptic. I was like, oh man, almost, you had me. Thought you were gonna zig, and you zagged. But so I mean, short of that, there wasn't a lot. The Bud Light commercials were pretty good, though.
As always, yeah, they're always good.
That Game of Thrones Bud Light commercial was a little weird, though. Yeah, the dragon just flew out. Like, did the Bud Light Knight like get his neck broken? I think.
I'm not sure. I saw the one where he got struck by lightning. That one was pretty good.
That one was good.
But even the commercials are kind of lacking. It was like, oh my god, this is a terrible, terrible Super Bowl. It was funny. Me and Matt were talking about. I saw the one tweet where someone was saying that both teams today were playing as if they knew whoever won had to go to the White House, so they were just throwing the game.
I know, that was a funny tweet. I read that too. It's like they're playing like they know they have to go and eat hamburgers.
Yeah, right. They don't watch that Wendy's buffet.
Yeah, I would take it. It doesn't seem so bad. But yeah, it was a little lacking. I guess we should have known when Maroon 5 were announced to be playing the halftime show that we could expect a lackluster Super Bowl. I mean, like, the game wasn't it was what you'd expect out of a defensive football game, right? So that you end up, it's just another Patriots game, right? Like,
exactly.
You can't play perfect football, and that's what the Patriots make you do. You got to play perfect.
Yeah, and you had a near rookie quarterback for the Rams that just, it seemed like he buckled under the pressure, and man, that like you said, defense made the game.
Yeah,
There's just not much you could do.
I was watching that game and I was like, damn, what did Jared Goff know about Hillary Clinton?
Right. I mean, Goff it seemed like he buckled under the pressure, and the problem was, I kept saying, I was like, man, the Rams, the only way they're going to win this is if the Rams defense really holds up. And it's like, eventually Brady finds a way. Like, you give him enough opportunities to what he does. So it's like, he didn't have to do much. I mean, what was it? They scored one touchdown the whole time, and then it was just kickers. So
I feel like the Patriots, like, mantra, the way that they win games is, it's just like, look, just keep your shit together and don't make mistakes. Like, don't go for the big plays if they're not there. Don't try to force shit. Don't worry about if we don't have a score. Don't worry about if it's 3-3. Just play solid football. And they just kind of like, their whole approach just banks on the fact that, like, you're gonna make a mistake, and when you do, they're just gonna capitalize on it, and they'll make sure they make less mistakes than you.
They run it well and they play great defense. That's the formula. And
I just hate them so much. It's hard to compliment them right now. I know we're all
I know.
But I just hate them so much.
I know. Well, there's that holding call that was BS too. They got some bad calls there too.
I'm a Browns fan.
Killed that drive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Was that the one where they were like, it was going to be 3rd and like 23, and they ended up getting a first down. It was changed the momentum of the game.
The center caught holding. Yeah.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
That big Todd Gurley run.
Remember, I'm a Browns fan. I have season tickets to the Browns, so watching Belichick win another ring is just salt in the wound. It's just salt in the wound.
Yeah. Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. Was there anything memorable about the game, the commercials, anything went on that you guys want to talk about? That star-studded halftime show?
Not to my knowledge. Honestly, that was one of the more poor halftime shows I've seen. But it's sad when you actually kind of root, like, you're hoping that there would have been some kind of social justice scene, like even what Beyonce did, where everyone just lost their minds.
Right.
Like everyone went crazy over her. Like, I don't even remember what she was wearing, but they're like, oh my God, her outfit. And it's like, man, even that would have been better than what we had.
I think it is,
as much as I don't mind Adam Levine with his shirt off, whatever. But
it is kind of it's kind of funny that we've gone to this day and age where we're disappointed now that, like, the politics weren't involved like we thought they would be, so we could, like, talk shit about it. Like, what the hell? Thought you guys were going to make this, like, some kind of whole thing.
It goes to show that you kind of, as much as we all complain about how we hate politics being interjected into like every facet of social life, even sports. Everyone says sports was supposed to be the last place that politics appears.
Right.
People kind of, like, it's almost like maybe it appeared there because people want it. I mean, people tend to, look at social media. Like, there's a lot of people that, like, if you go through your social media, at least for my feed, it seemed like everyone was either talking about politics or talking about the lack of politics. And it's like, maybe that's why people started to interject them in the first place, because these marketers knew, like, hey, this is an audience we could reach. So
it gets everyone talking about stuff, and it gets everyone worked up. That's for sure. And then apparently when it's not injected into it, everyone gets bored. Because it was actually
especially a game like that.
Yeah, right. With a game like that, it's like, yeah, you're going to get... It's like, damn it. That should speak to how bad the game was. Like, oh my God, I'm craving politics.
Right.
I feel like if it was any two other teams, like, it wouldn't have been that bad. It's just the fact that, like, the Patriots are in it. People are kind of already like, fucking Patriots again.
Yeah, you've seen that show so many times.
And then it's like a defensive game. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
No, that's just we've all seen it. It's kind of like I was equating it with my wife to when I was a kid watching wrestling. You know, you knew Hulk Hogan was going to win. You knew he was going to win the title. You'd start watching the match. You might think the other guy might win, and you know, you just get sick of it after a while.
Yeah. Well, I think like people already had that kind of like, oh boy, and then it turns into being like a defensive game, which like I had a feeling it was going to end up being that kind of game, but it just made it that much harder to watch because it's just not. You know, like big offense makes games like really exciting, kind of edge of your seat stuff when they're scoring on each other left and right. And a game like that is completely different. You're like watching Goff struggle to get a first down. You're just like, oh, this is tough.
Yeah, and that's take nothing away from Brady. He's the greatest. The Patriots are the greatest. Belichick's the greatest. But
Edelman had a day.
I've seen it.
Edelman had more yards himself than Goff had the entire game.
Yeah, Edelman went ham.
He was a beast.
Had some fun out there. Yeah. All right. So, what's that?
They're good. They do it right.
Yeah. No one thing. Yeah. Yes, they have the Super Bowl rings to prove it.
Yep.
It's just okay. So we've got plenty of time now for for football to go and do what football does during the off season. But with everything going on with the Super Bowl, and since we didn't have as much to discuss about the game itself and the stuff that happened during it, I was thinking we could talk about some of the other stuff surrounding football. And this is something that it's been interesting to me, actually, because I've always been a pretty big fan of football. I enjoy football very much. To anyone listening, in case you're curious, I am an Oakland Raider fan. Oakland for now, I guess. Yes, F to me.
Ew.
Hey, look, listen. I get enough just being a Raider fan. Right? I don't need your shame.
I don't need shame from a Browns fan over here.
Right.
I got it worse. The Raiders are my 1A, man. I'm a Bengals fan, so I'm kind of screwed either way I go.
Yeah, that is tough. Well, you got some cool colors, though. Cool colors and mascots, though.
Almost. You're not a Browns fan.
Well, anyway, so one of the things that I always had trouble struggling with, even before I got into politics, is how exactly stadiums are funded. And so this one is frustrating to me, and like even more so like as a Raider fan, right? Because like this is the primary reason why they're leaving now. You know, so back when Al Davis was in LA and he came back to Oakland, he did it with the agreement that they're going to build what's referred to as Mount Davis, right? And so it's just like the set of seats that kind of goes up. It was like up above the regular stadium setup there, and it cost a whole bunch of money. And the people for Oakland, they're still paying for it in taxes. And it's terrible. This system of kind of offsetting the cost of the stadium to the taxpayers is just really, really garbage, because these stadiums don't even end up getting paid off before the new ones are getting built now at this point. Right?
Yeah, it's very rare, and that's one of the not to interject, but
no, please.
It's one of the economic fallacies that people really need to let go of. I can't tell you. So, being from Cleveland, after LeBron James won us the championship, the Q, which is where the Cavaliers play, they want to redo it, things like that. And man, I couldn't tell you the outpouring of support by taxpayers of Cleveland, which is a pretty a lot of people aren't well off. But man, they were convinced that, if we just get this new stadium and we pay all this new tax money, we're going to get that money back on the back end through increased spending by people coming to the stadium, people coming to downtown to enjoy the games. And that just it never materializes, as you said. Like literally, historically, there's tons of statistics that show that just never ever comes to fruition. It just never does.
No, I mean, like, you go ahead and finish.
No, I would say it's just sad to see people be, I don't know, almost taken advantage of. I mean, I've written about this on multiple occasions, and it's really sad to see people taken like that.
Oh, it is, and it's very much the case that these things don't get recouped. I mean, you look at these situations these teams are in, and they're essentially like they're moving, right? They're moving from where they were to go somewhere else because that city like can't do that again.
Yeah,
because they're still paying for the first stadium.
It's even when they rebuild or remodel, some of the remodeling fees that these cities have for their own stadiums is astronomical.
Right, and so it gets like totally crazy, and what's going on is it's making it to where, and I was talking to someone the other day about going to a football game, and they were like, there's some older folks, and they're just talking about how it's insane today to go to a football game. Like if you got kids, going to a football game is gross expensive. Just any sporting event really these days. It's crazy expensive, but football's the worst. The tickets are so expensive. Everything inside is so expensive. And it's like,
yeah. Can I ask you, being from near San Fran, what does a beer cost in a stadium by you?
Like $10, $12.
Okay. All right. So a beer at Brown Stadium is $10.75. So
yeah. So we're somewhere around
about
there.
The same.
Yeah. How much are your tickets though?
Well, so I have season tickets. I pay about $75 per ticket face value.
Okay, it's a lot cheaper than. Well, I mean, where are your seats though? Are you like in the?
But we're the Browns. We're the. I should speak into the mic. We're the Browns.
That's true.
So,
the Cleveland.
that was what I paid the season after we went 0-16.
The Cleveland Factories of Sadness. I'm
so glad even the West Coast knows that. Thanks.
That was a great YouTube video that guy did. How about you, Matthew? When's the last time you went to a football game?
I actually went to the first preseason game this year. My son played at halftime.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, we got cheap tickets.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, the beers were $10-11 a pop, and I have 4 kids, so it wound up being a very expensive night. It was fun. It was the first and probably only time my kids will get to go down there, and it was the circumstance we went under. But we dropped a couple $100 easy. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, for most people, that's not something you can do multiple times a year. I mean, it's a big outing. You're spending hundreds of dollars.
Well, that's just it. Too.
Rough.
It's the same with the Reds. We love to take the kids to the game, but damn, man, we can't do it more than once or twice a year.
Yeah, it's too much. The tickets alone is like, man, how am I going to pay for that? And then once you get in, you're spending like 3 times the amount of the ticket inside the stadium. It's just crazy that the way that stadiums are funded it's not completely dissimilar to what the state does and the way that it affects the price of education, right? Like you get things involved to subsidize costs, and then all of a sudden these prices just start going up and up and up, and everyone's like, hey man, get in there.
Yeah. And it's not only, so the thing is, it's how they sell the public on this stuff. So not to just circle about Cleveland, but
no.
And one of the things is I was asked by a Cleveland magazine to kind of investigate so the Cleveland Cavaliers, I told you, after LeBron won the championship, they wanted to remodel the Q, and so I did some investigative journaling, and it was the way they sell these projects on the public is criminal, in my opinion. So just to give you an example, right? So the Q, which is what they call the arena that the Cavs play in, they estimated that, of course, they have, I don't know who they come in and have these people that project what it's going to cost, but the projected cost was $140 million, right? Except afterwards, they don't even lie about this. They tell you later on, way down in the fine print, that after your taxes are paid and the interest on these bonds that they issue to pay for it, it's going to be $282 million to redo the stadium. But yet, if you looked at your tax levy when you're voting on this, it says $140 million. They're literally allowed to more than double this, and they don't have to put it. They just hide it way down there. And the other thing is they sell it to you based on, you guys have probably heard this before. They say, oh, no new taxes. We're going to pay for this stadium with no new taxes. And that's just an outright lie. So for example, in Cleveland, so Cleveland is in Cuyahoga County, right? So it's all on county level. Mm-hmm. They had a tax that was levied on May 8th of 1990, right? They had this county tax approved. And what it was supposed to do was supposed to raise $150 million, right, over 15 years. And it was supposed to pay for what was called Gateway Plaza, which is a stadium that doesn't even exist anymore, right? And what ended up happening is 20 years later, they voted to extend this tax that had already been extended to begin with. For
a stadium that isn't there.
Yeah, and they say, oh, we're gonna now, mind you, this tax was passed in 1990. 1990, and we're talking about those taxes are being extended to this day. In 2000, this was in 2018, it says. 2018, they're still saying, well, we're not actually levying any new tax, but what they don't tell you is that they're extending taxes from 20 years ago that were supposed to expire 10 years ago to pay for this. And it's like, these are people that, if you guys haven't heard, Cleveland isn't the most well-off city. I mean, these are people that are struggling to pay their bills, that has been on the downtrend. I mean, Cleveland is not the industrial powerhouse that it has. And you're literally taxing these people to pay for stadiums that these billionaires are making money hand over fist. And people say like, oh, what's the billionaires' fault? Well, no, look at the politicians that are investing in these stadiums and making returns on it like crazy because they're working hand in hand. It's criminal. If you get me started on this, it's seriously criminal. And there's so many examples of this in other cities. The New York Giants
down here.
Yeah, the New York Giants had that. I mean, I have a whole bunch of stuff pulled up here about different stadiums that have the same kind of scenarios happen to them.
Get into it, man. If you got something you want.
No, I will. If you don't mind. I mean, so for example, the New York Giants actually so the complex that they had it built in 1976, right? Mm-hmm. And it was funded by issuing bonds, which is the most, just so people don't know, it is the most common way. So you issue bonds and then the taxpayers buy them, if you're not familiar. But at the time, right? So they issued a bunch of bonds. The stadium was built in 1976, right? In 2010, the stadium was demolished. Okay, that's pretty big window to pay off that debt.
Yeah,
they still owed $266 million in bond payments
for that. The first stadium,
which they proposed was not going to be paid off until 2025. It says that from what I derive here, residents are paying $35 million a year in taxes for a lot that is now a parking lot, and they're going to be paying that until 2025. And mind you, that tax was levied in 1976.
That's too much. It's so insane. It's so insane. That's the whole thing. Like, I would love to see a report on how many of these stadiums that were funded through like, public taxes are gone now.
Yeah, it's crazy. So everyone knows the RCA Dome, right? In Indianapolis. Yeah. It was a big one when it came down. 2008, it was demolished, right? You want to know the debt that it carried on the day it was demolished?
How much?
$61 million.
Good
Taxpayers in Indianapolis aren't going to pay it off until 2021.
Good Lord.
Isn't that insane?
It's crazy.
So there's a report here that says economists have found that public funding of arenas have actually brought a net loss to taxpayers over the last 40 years.
Of course.
So it's insane. So to sell these people and say this whole idea of like spending boosts the economy and that, oh my God, we're going to see it on the back end. It is absolute lies. And the fact that, I know it sounds lame, I don't want to defend billionaires, but the fact that these billionaires are held up like, oh my God, they're the reason that this is a problem. It is your local politicians. I mean, Matt, you're talking about getting in on a local level. I mean, this is the people that we need to take out. These people need to be voted out of office, need to be done away with because they are selling their own constituents at a local level lies that are just, I mean, millions and millions of dollars to the least well-off people are paying taxes to billionaires. Talk about a wealth redistribution scheme.
Yep. That should be our targets.
Absolutely. And the crazy thing about this is it's not necessary. Right? Like if you look at the game as it was played years and years ago, right? You go watch NFL films and you see some of these older games. You don't need these stadiums that are crazy like they are, like to the level that these stadiums are, right? It's not necessary to play a football game in. And it like the way that, I mean, the size of the stadiums that are being built now, it's crazy, right? Like I remember the first time I went and saw the Raiders play. at the Oakland Coliseum. And it was like there was an ocean of, I'd never, at that time, right? I'd never seen that many people in one place before. It was a completely mind-blowing experience. That was insane to me, right? And like that was a big thing to see. It was a big event. And I understand that a lot of these owners and stuff are like obsessed with this big, obviously like Jerry and Stan Kroenke and just this other, who's Arthur Blank, right? The guy that they just played at his stadium. They make these stadiums that are insane, and a credit to the guys that make the stadiums. It is breathtaking, but it's not completely necessary. You don't have to have that. But now like that's the standard that's set, right? See these giants. I mean, back at the stadium that I was shocked at, the Oakland Stadium that everyone is pretty much in wild agreement at this point is like one of the biggest, shit stains on the NFL as far as stadium goes. And that thing's not even paid off yet. Like, what the hell? How long are these mega stadiums going to take to pay off? Like, you're sitting here saying, TJ, people are paying for parking lots right now. Right? We've never seen stadiums that are in the size and scope of some of these ones that just got built, like the one for the Vikings or the one for the Falcons.
Look at the college ones. College ones are even bigger. I mean, you don't even want to go into how these colleges are. These, you talk about the cost of education going up, and you're like, man, where's it all going? I mean, if you look at Ohio State Stadium and Michigan Stadium, they are way bigger than any NFL stadium built today. Way bigger.
So what's the deal with that? What is it? Just because just people are that pumped on it that owners and the
money that they'll bring
in, get away with it?
You're basically charging these poor kids that are sold a lie that you need to go to college and all that. And they're paying monstrous interest payments, more so than they need to, on government loans. So the government's making money hand over fist. The colleges are making so much money. And then all these investors are making money on the sports teams that they bring in. It's literally a criminal. It's criminal. I mean, it's cronyism to the 10th power is when you look to sports.
Because it's all in the back of the taxpayer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a study here. So, for example, there's an economics professor named Bruce Johnson, and he did a survey a few years ago, and he went to multiple cities. He asked how much the citizens of that city would be willing to pay per year to keep their team there. How much would they be willing to subsidize the team with taxpayer dollars? You know what he found? He said on average, the results showed that each city was already subsidizing the team 5 times more than the amount of money that every taxpayer was willing to donate to keep that team in the city.
Oh, man.
It's insane. It's insane. But people don't. The problem is every person that he asked that question to didn't already know how much they were paying to keep that team there. He goes, yeah, well, how much is your tax? Oh, I'd be willing to pay. Okay, well, what if I told you that you're already paying 5 times that amount every single year? What if I told you you're paying that amount right now for a stadium that's not even in existence anymore, and we're going to tack on another one for a stadium that we're building now?
Yeah, man. Make taxes transparent again. Like, if people could only see what they're paying for, like, itemized. Like, here, like the people of Oakland, for instance, right? Like, here's the chunk of the Oakland Coliseum that no one's playing in right now that you're still going to be paying for.
Well, don't I mean, that sounds like a huge statist, but when you think about it, to relate, I mean, you have to, at some point, you have to relate to voters. And think about it. So in Ohio, as Matt can attest, there's a list of the 100 worst schools in the entire state. Cleveland, just the city of Cleveland, has 15 public schools on the list of worst 100 in the state. And you're sitting there saying that they can't afford to fund these schools when they're funding these stadiums for LeBron James and the owner who's worth $5 billion, but he can't afford to. It's just, I don't know. How do you square that circle, in my opinion? Well,
the frustrating thing is it's like, it doesn't have to be. I feel like this discussion is always had, and people kind of make it like, well, you either hate sports or you don't.
Is that my bread and circuses?
Right. Like, you either hate sports or you don't. Where it's just like, why does the stadium have to be like the 8th wonder of the world, though? Like, why can't you just play your sports in a more modest stadium? I love football. I love watching football. I think you could have like a really nice football game in a really nice football stadium that maybe doesn't, cost nearly as much, forcing these billionaires to like get it subsidized by people paying taxes and engage in this racket like you're talking about.
It goes back to what it is, though. I mean, remember, as Milton Friedman said, when you're spending someone else's money, You don't get the same quality. You don't care about the price. Like I said, $140 million is what someone privately estimated the Q in Cleveland was going to need to be renovated. And then taxpayers came in, they levied a tax, and all the money went to these contractors that bid on it publicly. And what did it end up costing? $282 million, literally doubled. It's like when people say, oh, well, the wall's going to cost $5 billion. And people like you and I and Matt, well, we know that really $5 billion. No, it's going to be 10. It's going to be 20. By the time it's done, it's going to be way more. But the taxpayers they're not told that when they vote on it. They're not told any of that. Half the time they don't even get a choice. I mean, it's I don't know. I can only say it's criminal so many times in a row. So.
Yeah, man. It was so the Falcons, the stadium that the Super Bowl was just played. So that was $1.5 billion that thing took to get made. $1.5 billion. That is so much. And then aside from that,
what's what I'm saying? Do you have any when do you think they're going to pay? When are taxpayers going to pay that off? You know, you think that stadium will still be around by the time that's paid off?
No, they're going to be on like their fourth from that, and they're going to have to move into a different town like every other. That's the shadiest part. Is these teams?
Yeah, you just pick up and leave. They can just pick up and leave.
Leave them with the bill. Like it sucks, man, and it's like watching this whole Raiders thing go down. Like it was heartbreaking. I've grown up here my whole life, and granted they went down to LA, but like it was hard to see them go that one time, and they come back, and it's like, you know, you don't want your team to go, but
as a Browns fan, I would say I hope for your sake they come back, because I remember watching the Browns leave to Baltimore, and that was rough. I was younger, but yeah.
Oh, it sucks, man. It sucks. But it's like, you don't want to see him go, but I'm sitting there like talking to people about it, and it's like, I don't blame them. Like,
yeah, I'll help the Bengals pack.
Oh my God. Yeah, dude, I got so much shit for it, because after the Browns went 0-16, I was talking about canceling my tickets, and I told everyone, I said, we should all cancel our tickets. And they, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean you got to cancel? I go, they need to know that we're not going to put up with this. And they said, well, that was always the comeback. Would you want them to pack up and leave again, like it was in the 90s? And I said, yes, that's what it's going to take. Yes. I would much rather have the Browns pack up and leave than them come back and say, hey, well, if you really want us to win, what we need is a new stadium that you're going to have to pay for. No, absolutely not. Pack up and leave. Get out of here.
Yeah. It was like that here in 2004, you know, people wanting them to stay and people buying tickets. But over the last, I would say 4 or 5 years, the number of people that have canceled their season tickets. I mean, you go down there, they started off the year 4-1, and the stadium was half empty. You know, they've sapped all the give a fuck out of Cincinnati.
That's what you need. Unfortunately, the Browns, I will say we have good fans, but unfortunately, in our instance as libertarians, that equates to kind of economically ignorant fans, because we went 0-16, and the next year the stadium was sold out. Season tickets were sold out. It's insane, and it's like,
it
man,
took
these
a while
guys
to get it here.
They won't stop. They just don't stop buying it. And when we talk about economic incentives, what incentive is there as an owner to really make any changes? Hey, they're making money hand over fist. These people they're looking at it like, hey, they're probably willing to buy a stadium upgrade for me, even though they're billionaires. I feel bad. I sound like such a statist here. Like, oh, these billionaires.
Well, no, because I mean, look, so I think libertarians just don't like it when there's like super shady shit going on, right? Because it's unethical. And I think a lot of time billionaires get painted in a bad light just because they have a lot of money, and people go after them, and libertarians are like, hey, that's BS, right? You don't. That's ridiculous. But this, I think, is one of those situations where it is due criticism, because you're literally talking about like these people that have enough money to do the things that they're doing, but they don't, and instead they foot the cost to the taxpayer. And like you said, go ahead.
Yeah, here in Cincinnati, I mean, 96 they had a tax levy. They basically said, if this doesn't pass, we're booking. So people, they rallied around their team. They overwhelmingly pass this tax levy. They get ripped off. It keeps getting extended. It keeps getting raised. And you've got shitty 8-8 and 7-9 football teams every year. And it's, if you're going to hold a gun to my head and rob me, at least give me a winning season every now and again. So,
yeah, right. At least let you guys make it through the first round of the playoffs.
We're pretty much done here, man. They can take them. We got a soccer team in town now. We'll put them in the stadium, and we'll just we'll hang with that. We got the Reds. The Reds are looking good this year, so
there you go.
You can have the Bengals.
Do they sell out the Bengals?
I can't remember the last time they sold out. Really? I mean, honestly, the games that they sell out is when they play Pittsburgh, because all the Pittsburgh fans drive down and come see them here. I've been playoff games against Pittsburgh, and there's still more Pittsburgh fans than Bengal fans.
Yeah, I believe it, because we always have the opening game in Cleveland. Almost always the home opener for the past 3 years has been the Pittsburgh Steelers, and man, that game is nuts.
They travel, man.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Steelers fans are willing to travel. Plus, I mean, it's a rivalry between us, even though it's not really, because we never beat them. So,
well, we had a rivalry there for a minute, but then we lost like 16 or 17 in a row and kind of took the flavor out of it.
That's one of the weird things about the Raiders. You ever notice that? Like, the Raiders always beat the Steelers at home. When the Raiders are at home, by the way.
Then they go on the
watch Raiders
of the Bengals the next week.
Right.
It's a rough year, man.
Yeah, the Raiders are like terrible all the time, but for some reason, whenever Pittsburgh comes to Oakland, they can't beat them. They won't have that problem anymore.
We were that way with the Ravens for a while.
Really?
Yeah, we could be terrible, and we'd sweep the Ravens every year.
Trip. How about Cleveland? There's the fans selling out there, regardless of the. I mean, you had a good year this year.
Yeah, no, Browns fans are. I don't know. This is just something I'm told in Cleveland, and what I've traveled around, so it seems to be verified from my anecdotal evidence. But yeah, we have some pretty good fans. I mean, it's like I said, we went 0-16 and we're still selling out. I mean, it's weird. Browns fans are just
suffered a long time.
We're the factory of sadness, and we have earned that. I will ask you, gentlemen, to respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's sad though is like I'm looking here at the statistics, and it's over the past 7 years that Cleveland has been told that we can't fund education. And again, I hate to sound like a statist. All the people are going to be mad. Oh my God, you want public education and all this crap?
Well, it's priorities.
When you're told, put yourself in the shoes of someone who doesn't know libertarian ideas. How do you reach them? One of the things that I think would be a good one is your kids are sitting here in a failing public school. In Cleveland, they talk about how, oh my God, well, I shouldn't say in Cleveland, but overall, you hear these lefties talk about how, socialism works. Look at your fire departments, look at your police department, your roads. In Cleveland, if you call 911, you will get the answering machine. You're not going to get the police. You get into a fender bender in Cleveland, just so you know, they will tell you they're not, even if the police do pick up the phone, they will not come out to see you. They'll tell you, you need to come to our police department. We're not coming out. Can't handle it. Sorry. Budget ain't there.
Damn.
I know this firsthand. And it's like, when you hear things like that, it's right now Cleveland, as of this year, 1 in 7 people live below the poverty line. And then they wonder where they go, well, where's all the tax revenue going? And then you hear things that most people don't hear about. You and I, libertarians like to stuff. That's the only reason I know about it. Like I said, we look into where the money's going. Most people don't know that they're paying a good amount, more than they would be willing to pay, to keep a losing team like the Browns here, to pay off the interest on the bonds from what they use to build these stadiums. And it's just sad to see people that are being taken advantage of like that talk to a libertarian like you or I and defend the people that are ripping them off. Say, oh, well, what would we do without the cops? What would we do without tax money? And it's like, do you think, if only you knew that without this tax money, you'd be way better off. Yeah, you might not have the Browns, whoop-de-doo. But wouldn't you much rather have money in your pocket to pay for your kids' education? Wouldn't you rather not be below the poverty line? I mean, where's the trade-off here?
Yeah, well, and the worst part too is it's like you said, right? So it gets sold to them with a very attractive veneer, and then once it's sold, you're in. It's like that's the hardest thing for me to swallow. We've beat the horse at this point to death, but just the fact that it's just so many years after the stadium is a parking lot. That's the like the most insane part to me, is like they're still paying money on it. So if they want to keep their team, they have to pay essentially for another like you're paying for 2 stadiums now. Because no team, right? Like you're going to have a stadium that competes with this Falcon Stadium or the Dallas. They're not even in Dallas. What is that? Arlington now?
Yeah. But it's crazy. I mean, if you think of so for example, Cleveland Stadium, just, that tax that I told you about that was passed in 1990, these aren't passed by much. So when you talk about your local politics, like Matt, what you're talking about, like joining your local libertarian party, it was passed by a 1 vote margin on the local city council level. Oh, and that is a tax that, do you really think in 1990 that the city council members that were voting for this really thought that, mind you, they were like, oh yeah, okay, it's going to be a 15-year tax. We're now talking what? It was in 1990, so we're talking 29 years later, and they're talking about extending it another 10 years. More than that, because they're talking about extending it to 2034, so it'll be 15 years. And it passed by a 1 vote margin. Like we can't. And it's like, man, this local stuff is killing us. It's killing us.
You can't put it back up for vote. Like does it?
No, I mean, I hope maybe I should go to a Cleveland meeting and talk about it and be like, can we please re-vote on this, because this is absolutely insane.
Well, I mean, is that how it goes? And when they extend it, is that a decision that's made, or are they just like, you know what, it already got voted on, we're just going to keep it rolling?
When they extend it, from what I'm seeing here, so it passed by 1 margin or 1 vote margin, but when they extended it, it was almost unanimous, unfortunately, because it seems like I hate to say that it's like Washington, but people don't read the bills. It comes across their desk and they go, oh yeah, we need to extend this vote. And people go, oh, we don't have to actually, this is an opportunity to keep the tax base where it is. Right. And you have the opportunity to, like I said, to sell it to the voters. Say, well, we didn't actually increase taxes because, of course, you don't want to be the guy that raises tax. But man, if you can keep that tax base growing and you don't have to increase it, all these people voted in favor of it. So yeah, it looked like it was almost unanimous every single time. It was because it was renewed in 1985. It was renewed last year, and it was they're talking about. It looks like it was almost unanimous every time where it's, hey, we're not increasing. You know how it is. We're not increasing taxes. We're not increasing taxes. And then you look into it and you're like, yeah, you're just extending a tax that was due to, expire.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing. It's like when people say that, oh, they cut funding for education on a national level. And it's like, well, no, they just stopped it from growing as much as it was. Like, it was set to grow at 5% and we lowered it to grow to 3%.
I know.
It's still growing, but oh my God, we cut funding. Like, I love when leftists say how we slashed public education funding, and it's like, no, by any metric.
No one has slashed anything.
Anywhere, like anywhere, any city, any state, like any on the federal level, it just hasn't happened. And it's just all we've done is the most we could say is that we've stopped it from growing as fast as they wanted it to.
Yeah. Well, if anything got slashed, it just got like offset somewhere else. They're like, hey, good news. We slashed a bunch here. And then like the next week we're like, and we increased the shit out of military spending. So,
yeah.
It's just, when it goes from one bucket and into the other.
No, but this is a necessary conversation because with people listening to the Super Bowl, this is probably when we're most likely to get an audience. And people need to realize that this isn't just happening in Cleveland. It's not just happening in Oakland. Like, we see it happening all over. Even if you live in a city that hasn't had a new stadium in the past 20 years, you need to look into your city council's voting, because I would be willing to bet that you are paying interest on bonds that paid for a stadium that you either don't use anymore, or it ended up costing way more than you thought, or you're paying way more than you'd be willing to keep that stadium around.
Or you're going to have to turn around and go pay for a new stadium soon.
Yeah, or they're going to dip out soon and they're going to leave you with a fat bill.
Unless you pay for 2 stadiums with your taxes.
Right. Well, that's the other thing, is that the owners threaten to leave, or the players threaten to leave. And you know what? Call their bluff.
Like, let them
Screw
leave.
Those guys.
It sucks. I mean, like I said, right? Like, talking about the Raiders, like it sucks. It sucks. It sucks as a Raider fan that I'm no longer going to be able to call them the Oakland Raiders. But like, tough titties, man. I'm not gonna sit there.
Tough titties. All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna sit there and support just that kind of like we'll just leave. Then fucking go. You're not going to get another stadium put on top of the addition that you already got the last time that like Al Davis threw a temper tantrum and did this. So,
bye, Felicia.
Yep. Later. Sorry. I mean, so we got the Foundation for Economic Education has an article that just went up yesterday that was talking about Arthur Blank, the owner of the Atlanta Falcons stadium that the Super Bowl was just played in. And this is the kind of stuff that TJ's talking about. It's really frustrating. So the headline reads, Falcons owner Arthur Blank will collect all the Super Bowl revenue, even though taxpayers own the stadium. Just wrap your head around that for a fucking minute. That is not how it should work.
That's insane. Well, you see these leftists, and I want to shake them. I want to shake them, and I want to say, listen, you're arguing against the people that you should be arguing against. They always talk about what is it? Privatized winnings with publicly funded losses, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, who is allowing this? Who is the one that's hand in hand with these billionaires? They always think it's the billionaires acting on their own. Oh my God, do you really think that this guy in Atlanta, the co-founder of Home Depot, that he got this contract, that he's going to get all the winnings from this, from a publicly funded stadium on his own? Right. Who's giving him these?
Yeah.
And it's the same people that these socialists want to give more power to. They want to give them more authority, less accountability. Oh God, it makes me so sick to think about. I can't. It's
bad. It's bad. Like, and here's the sub headline, like under the lead here. The cost of this is real gross. The cost of maintaining and upgrading the stadium would be taxpayer funded in perpetuity.
No surprise there.
It's just insane, right? Like you said, TJ. Like I don't want to come off sounding like AOC here, but why are, of all people, billionaires being subsidized to build their sporting complexes? It's too big.
It comes down to the education level. I mean, it's just people aren't informed. I mean, like I said, the article I was asked to write for local Cleveland magazine, we asked for the mayor's resignation over this when they were when they did the new the additions to the stadium, and it fell on deaf ears. I mean, it literally nobody cared. Nobody cared to look at it. Nobody cared. The city council meetings, they all talked about how, well, LeBron James is going to bring business to us. We'll get the money back. People are going to spend money in restaurants, and they're going to buy more tickets, and then that money can be turned around in tax revenue. And it's like, but you already see that these people that are taking your tax revenue and choosing where to spend it don't care about you. They don't care about you at all. It sounds awful to say. I feel like Dan Carlin, where I'm like, you're not in the club at all. They don't care about you. But
man, what was it? The Bible. Wouldn't the Bible said something about like false idols? I'm not really the most.
I just remember him saying about the club. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. They don't care about you at all. They don't care.
No, but it's
just sad.
What you said about LeBron James is fascinating, though, right? Because that's all it takes. Right? At the end of the day, that's all it is, right? Like, no one wants LeBron to leave. Oh, but LeBron. Or I mean, and that's the same way with any team, right? They're like, I don't want the team to go. But it's like,
well, they think they're going to lose a bunch of money. They're like, oh my God, no one's going to show up downtown to watch football, and no one's going to come to these games and spend money. And it's like, yeah, but think of all the money you're going to keep in your pocket, dude.
Well, not even that. They don't.
Well, they can't. In their opinion, they can't. It's like Henry Hazlitt said. It's what's seen versus what's unseen, and that's the issue. Is that what's seen is always going to have the upper hand.
It's not even that. These things. The really shitty part about it, the super super shitty part about it, is that it's not going to get cheaper for the taxpayers, because in tons of these situations, there's still years and years left until the initial thing that they had extra taxes put on for is done being paid off.
Oh yeah, we're talking 30. I'm giving you examples here where 30 years later they're still paying interest on this stuff.
Yeah, so it's not like you get these poor average people of any of these neighborhoods or these cities, right? And they go and they pay for this thing, and then the team leaves, and it's like, yeah, later, guys. We'll keep paying for your stadium, though. Have fun. Bye.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, it's
really sad.
Find a reason. They will find a reason to pay for these stadiums. Like I said, it came in 1990. They're paying for a Gateway Plaza, which isn't even really around anymore. And then oh wow, hey guys, it's almost like these guys are in a secret room and they're like, hey man, this tax is about to run out. Oh, what is it? Oh, we paying for this stadium. Oh, I know. Well, let's ask this guy who runs the team now, the new team. And let's see, does he need like a renovation? Man, because I could invest in that if we're about to extend this tax for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
And it's like, and then these councilmen act like, it's just sad. You see a broke city like Cleveland, and let's be honest, I'm from Cleveland. It's a broke city. But yet our city council members, I see them driving around in Bentleys, Rolls Royces. And I'm like, really? You expect me to, like, it feels weird when I'm debating a statist and he's like, no, man, you just need to vote for Hillary or vote for Trump. And I'm like, you really think, even on the local level, your councilman has your best interests in mind? Come on. What evidence can I possibly propose to you to get you to change your mind at this point?
Yeah, there's nothing. There's nothing.
I don't want to say there's nothing because, I am an anarchist. Yes, I don't think there's anything. But, I hate to give up at least a little tiny thread of hope where it's like, maybe there's something. Maybe. I'll get to know this guy. I'll find stuff.
I got a little bit of hope, but when it comes to the sports team stuff, it's tough. There's a I think
the sports team is where most people can relate. Name an American that isn't into some type of sports. I mean, it's random. I mean, that's not a bad thing. I'm not one of those people that like hates the bread and circuses where it's like, oh, you shouldn't be into sports because it's all
right.
rip-off. But man, this could be a serious in for libertarians, especially like, for example, with Matt. Matt, if you're trying to get in with libertarians, even Republicans or Democrats, it's like, show me examples. Ohio has a great example of how we've wasted taxpayer dollars on stadiums and people are paying for it decades later. It's like, that is a serious in.
That is, it absolutely is. And it's, these are the types of issues I think that everybody gets hung up on what the national party's doing and national this and national that, but it's the state and local parties where, issues like this, we can actually make a change or at least wake some people the fuck up, man. Every city that's got a stadium is getting hosed. And to your point, you don't have to be a statist who loves public schools to say, hey, look, people, you got a failing school system. There's a football stadium down here. They've extended the tax levy that's on it for another 10 years, another 20 years. There's a revenue stream there that they're already using for other things. Get mad, get fired up. These are issues where we can make a little hay.
Yeah. And Matt, I'm going to send you this article. Cause like I said, being from both of us from Ohio, like I have here, I mean, a lot of these taxes passed on a city level by one vote. We're not talking about, we're not losing monumentally. It's not like we're getting flushed out and it's like, these libertarians, whatever. There's no opposition to this. I mean, we're talking about 1 or 2 votes on a lot of these. The New York Giants here, it says won by a 2-vote margin when they voted in 1976 to fund a tax that is now it's still being funded today. They're still paying interest on that.
And see, those are the kind of wins that are within our reach. That's something we can make a difference, that we can swing a vote on, that we can, that's somewhere we can be impactful. We run people for races that we have no chance in winning. We should focus our effort on issues like these. That's how you want people to respect the party. You want people to respect libertarians. Give them something to respect. Fight for a cause that they believe in. And those are winning issues.
Yeah. Well, especially like you're talking about trying to get, trying to get the marijuana thing going. Yeah. That's a good lead, right? Like, look how much money, look at the sunk cost from all this sporting stuff. We need to get some of that money back. And there's something really easy staring us in the face that you guys keep voting against.
Right. Well, I will say that in Ohio, when our issue failed, I forget what issue that was, Matt, but when medical marijuana failed for the first time, I know in Cleveland, people were pissed. It was a big backlash. That was a very popular issue that people wanted to go
funny
through.
The way they did it. They, you got to give the people who opposed it credit. They turned it into a battle for perfect. people who would normally support it were like, well, I'm not going to support it because there's only, 10 licensed growers and whatnot. And it's like, well, you can come back in a year and fix that. You're not going to get another shot at this for a while. But they frame the whole argument as, hey, it's 5 or 10 billionaires trying to rip off the state. And it really wasn't what it was, but it won the day, and that's, maybe it's time for that strategy to be used against folks like that.
Well, the problem is that with the marijuana, it did seem, I will admit, it wasn't like a bunch of billionaires, but there was a big restriction on the marijuana, and that's why people were against it. And it's like, man, but if we could get libertarians in, maybe the next, when bills like this come about, there wouldn't be those restrictions, because you'd have libertarians in the committees saying, no, we're going to have this way open. Like, we're not going to allow you to restrict it to 6 growing, firms.
Right. And that, I'm not saying that wasn't a bad deal. It certainly was. But, my view on it at the time was let's grab it and let's come back and fix it, because here we are 2 years later and we don't have full legalization in sight. I'm hoping that that's a cause that we're going to take up here in the LPO and.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the things we could thank Kasich for. It will not be missed.
One of the many. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and that's, I think we're going to have a battle with the new guy as well, but
yeah, DeWine does. Yeah, he doesn't.
Yeah. Nothing worth having's easy.
He's good on the gun rights, though. He's good on the gun rights, it seems.
He. Do you remember when he was a senator? Are you old enough to remember? I don't know how old you are.
I'm 28. So
yeah,
no, I don't. I might be old enough, but I don't recall him. No,
he was. He was instrumental in some of those gun bans. I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago.
Was he?
Yeah, he was one of those bipartisan bridge crossers. I'll look it up and I'll send it to you.
Oh God, take notes, Vinny. This is why pragmatism sucks.
Yeah, DeWine's got a bad record on guns. He talks great like any Republican, but it's his record's not good.
People wonder why I'm in.
I'll send you that info though, and anybody listening, look it up. That's Mike DeWine is no friend of the Second Amendment.
We're gonna have to have an episode one of these days where I can defend pragmatism.
Oh, I won't show up for that one. No, I'm just gonna be that guy. I just hurl snowballs from these cheap ass shots, and then I'm like, "Hey, what's up, Vinny?" And then you want to defend yourself? Dude, I gotta go. I got a Browns game to go to.
I don't have time for these arguments. It is unfortunate though. I feel like I myself get really frustrated. I feel like people hide behind pragmatism is another way to just pull off sophist bullshit. They're just they throw up, well, it's pragmatic, and then you can't argue against me anymore because I'm being pragmatic now. So
it's almost as if you're saying Kyle Wagner, but you're not. It's weird.
Oh, Kyle, wait, hold on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. You can shoot somebody in the face because they looked at you funny.
You can. That's the trouble with anarchy.
I remember that. That's the trouble. That's what it is. It's just pragmatism. I just hated that. I always say, oh, well, yeah, your shit is really good. Your principles are sweet, but that's not reality. And it's like, bro, that's a weird argument for slavery. I don't know. You sound like an 1850s slaver to me. It's just, right. That's how it sounds to me. Hey man, slavery sucks, but it ain't gonna happen right now.
It is a weird thing. Yeah. It's that's a real nice argument
because of you.
You live in the real world where a small handful of wealthy individuals takes the money of many so they can bomb thousands of people overseas. Okay, that's reality.
Right.
Okay.
I live in the real world where shit doesn't change. So stop trying to make shit change.
That's your whole little songs about keeping your money and not bombing thousands of innocent people. Okay. This isn't reality that you're living in. Okay. So
we could argue the credibility of killing children all day, but the truth is killing children. So just deal with it.
Right.
You're whoa, man, whoa. Excuse me for thinking killing children sucks when it's overseas.
Out of your fantasy land, TJ.
I know. We could do this all day. Literally, there's no end in sight for examples to make fun of status. So.
I know. Okay. Well, and we're just about at an hour. So is there anything, Matthew, is there any information or a website or anywhere people can go to get information about what you've got going on, or if they want to go to support you or anything like that?
Well, I would say if there's any Ohio libertarians listening, you can go to the LPO website, lpo.org. Look up your central committee member. They go by the congressional districts. And, if if you like some of the things I was talking about earlier, certainly let them know. And conversely, if anybody's listening and would want to reach out to me, you can reach me through the Think Liberty site. And that's about it.
Yeah, Matthew puts
Appreciate you guys having me.
Heck yes, man. Of course.
We'll do it again.
Yeah, I'm real glad you joined, and I'm hoping that you'll be on here again. I'm glad we got TJ on to rip about the stadiums here. I think this is good. I think this is good information for people to have, and I think that more people should be talking about this kind of thing because taxpayers.
Yeah, I told you what happened if you got me started.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Taxpayers are getting a raw deal, and I think people should know about it. I think it's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, we need to exploit these big ones.
That's right. That's right. What was that, TJ?
Oh, I just said I think we need to exploit these big examples that we're given. You know, when we're things like stadiums, really, really monumental examples that we can really gain some ground.
They're winning issues.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Even the biggest statist can agree that, especially in Cleveland, the Browns should not be getting our tax dollars.
Right.
That's something that should unite pretty much anybody.
Yep.
Except politicians that are being bought off by these team owners, I guess. I mean, I don't know what other reason there could be.
Well, everyone makes money. That's the most frustrating part is the taxpayers pay. We'll get out of here in a second, but the taxpayers foot the bill, and everyone else other than the taxpayers make money off of it.
Literally anyone that can't afford. It sucks that the least well off are the most hurt. Anyone that can't afford to invest in these stadiums loses, and that is statistically the people that can't afford it, which is exactly the people that these politicians claim to champion. Oh my God, we need to worry about these poor people. Well, stop taking their money and using it to invest in your business adventures.
The most a taxpayer can look forward to, and as far as getting something back on a stadium, is getting the privilege to pay out of their bleeding asshole to go to an event at the stadium that they pay for. Or they could be lucky enough to get a part-time job selling hot dogs during the game for, I'm sure, nothing.
I would be willing to bet that, anyone that is an economist enough to do this, that I'd be willing to bet that there's people that sell hot dogs at that stadium that don't even make enough at that job to pay for the taxes they're paying towards that stadium.
Probably not.
Yep.
And that's sad.
Yeah, that's brutal. I think it's about time to revisit the model here.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's about time. Okay. Well, speaking of about time, we're a bit over an hour. So, is there anything anyone would like to say before we get going?
Yeah, I'm really sad that the Patriots won.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can look forward to a future with less New England Patriot teams in the Super Bowl.
A Tom Brady-less future.
Yeah.
Or Bill Belichick. I'll take either one at this point.
Yeah, that'll work. I just saw one of those satire sites that said a headline that says Bill Belichick grabbed from a hole that opened up in the earth and pulled into hell immediately following the Super Bowl game.
Well, his contract ran out with the Satan.
Like, all right, well, there you go. Here's your sixth one. I get your soul now. So he's gone. All right, you guys. Okay, well, okay, so I think that'll do it. We have a really exciting episode next week, so everyone make sure to check in.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're going to get TJ back here, and we're going to argue about the nap.
And pragmatism, too, I'm sure. Me and Vinny.
No, but pragmatism can be its own thing. I don't think those are really related.
No, it's fine. Eventually, we'll get there.
Pragmatism. Oh boy, don't even get me started. Because there's tons
I'm
of people
looking forward to it. I think that everyone's, this is going to be a rough go about with this nap episode.
It is. I'm not going to get too into it now because we promised our friends that we wouldn't. But
I had to at least mention it just to piss off one person in particular. So that's
right. Well, and we gotta leave it hanging for the listeners. So you got to tune in next week and you can hear us go at it with our arguments about why or why not with the nap. On behalf of my guests, thank you, everyone, for taking your time and listening to this episode. And thank you, my guests, for joining and giving me your time to join me as we bitch and complain about taxes and sports teams and whether or not anyone likes it. We will probably be back again.